Before he became Iron Man, before he was the face of the most successful movie franchise in history, Robert Downey Jr. was a cautionary tale. He was an addict, a felon, a Hollywood pariah. He was arrested, he was fired, he was uninsurable. At one point, you couldn't get him into a movie unless another star paid his liability out of pocket. So how did he go from the floor of a jail cell to commanding $75 million of film? The answer isn't luck. The answer is grit, pain, love, therapy, martial arts, failure, and finally, redemption. This is not just a celebrity comeback. This is the greatest second act in modern film history. This is how Robert Downey Jr. saved himself and became a legend. Robert Downey Jr. was born into a world of chaos disguised as creativity. His father, Robert Downey Sr., was an underground filmmaker. His movies were weird, artsy, brilliant, and full of counterculture drug use. Downey Jr. was raised in that world. By his own account, he was introduced to marijuana at the age of 6. Yes, 6, by his father. It was normalized. Downey later called it the worst thing his father could have done. But it didn't stop there. By the time he was a teenager, Downey was experimenting with alcohol, cocaine, and heroin. He dropped out of high school to pursue acting full-time, and by his early 20s, he was a rising star. He was funny, sharp, handsome, and infinitely watchable. In the 1987 film Less Than Zero, he played a rich kid spiraling into addiction. It was the role of a lifetime because he was living it. In interviews, he would later say, "It was like I had an identity crisis. I was playing this junkie in a movie, and I was a junkie in real life." He wasn't exaggerating. By the mid-90s, his substance abuse was out of control. He was arrested in 1996 after being pulled over for speeding. Police found heroin, cocaine, and a loaded .357 Magnum under the seat. A month later, he broke into a neighbor's house, high, and passed out in their 11-year-old son's bed. You'd think that would be the rock bottom. It wasn't. The next few years were a revolving door of jail, rehab, relapse, and courtrooms. He was given probation. He violated it. He was ordered into rehab. He escaped. He was given second, third, fourth chances, and blew them all. By 1999, he was sentenced to 3 years in California's state prison system for repeated violations. Let that land for a second. An Oscar-nominated actor was doing hard time. And when he got out, he tried to bounce back. He landed a gig on Ally McBeal, won a Golden Globe, and was being talked about as a serious comeback story. Then, another arrest. Cocaine and heroin again. That gig, gone. He was fired, dropped by agents, rejected by studios. Insurance companies refused to cover him. Even if a director wanted him, they couldn't afford the risk. Robert Downey Jr. had gone from being Hollywood's golden boy to being radioactive. So, what changed? Unlike the movies, real-life recovery isn't a single epiphany. It's not one dramatic turning point. It's a slow, excruciating series of decisions. And for Downey, it started with a combination of legal threats, emotional exhaustion, and love. After his final arrest in 2001, he hit a wall. He checked into rehab for the last time. This time, he committed. He got clean, and he stayed clean. But staying sober wasn't enough. He had to rebuild his reputation from scratch. The industry still didn't trust him. And this is where Susan Levin enters the story. Susan was a producer on the movie Gothika, where she met Downey. She was focused, disciplined, and not even slightly impressed by his past or his charm. He pursued her. She laid down the law: no sobriety, no relationship. Downey chose sobriety. They married in 2005. He credits her with being the cornerstone of his stability. With Susan, he built structure, routines, meditation, martial arts, clean eating, and distance from toxic influences. He didn't just get clean. He reinvented his life. Still, Hollywood was skeptical. He had to take roles where his salary was pennies. and his insurance had to be paid by friends. Mel Gibson paid his bond for The Singing Detective. Shane Black took a chance on him with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, a cult hit that reintroduced Downey to audiences not as a risk, but as a talent. And then came 2008. Jon Favreau was casting Iron Man. Marvel was taking a huge risk, launching a superhero franchise on a relatively unknown character. They needed the right actor. Someone with edge, charisma, darkness, and heart. Favreau wanted Downey. Marvel didn't. He fought for him. Why? Because Tony Stark was Robert Downey Jr. brilliant. Damaged, charming, haunted, addicted, self-made. Downey came in, did a screen test, and blew them away. Marvel caved. Downey got the part. The rest is cinematic history. Iron Man opened in 2008 and made over $585 million. Downey wasn't just back. He was a phenomenon. The Marvel Cinematic Universe exploded. Downey became the face of it all. But it didn't stop there. Over the next decade, he starred in Iron Man 2, Avengers, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, and more. His portrayal of Tony Stark defined a generation of movies, and he used his second act well. He negotiated a piece of the back-end profits. For Endgame, he reportedly made $75 million, not because he was greedy, but because he bet on himself. He launched Team Downey, his own production company. He mentored younger actors. He stayed clean, he showed up, he delivered. He didn't just rebuild his career, he built a legacy. All right, quick timeout. If this story hasn't made you want to call your ex, apologize to your dog, and sign up for karate lessons, what are we even doing here? Smash that like button like you're breaking into the MCU. Leave a comment about the most surprising thing you just learned. And hit subscribe, because around here, redemption stories are just getting started. Back to RDJ. Downey never pretended it was easy. He talked openly about therapy, about cravings, about needing a strict daily routine to stay grounded. He practiced Wing Chun. He journaled. He kept close to his family. He's also talked about guilt, the years he lost, the bridges he burned, but he never let it define him. He reconciled with his father. They made a documentary together, Senior, chronicling the life of Robert Downey Sr. It's raw, heartfelt, and beautifully full circle. It shows that healing isn't just possible, it's necessary. He raised his kids with stability he never had. He took roles he believed in, like The Judge. Not every film was a blockbuster, but that wasn't the point anymore. The point was autonomy, control, redemption. Robert Downey Jr.'s story isn't about Iron Man. It's about a man who faced himself, honestly, and made a different choice. He lost everything. He earned it all back. Not through spin, but through consistency, through humility, through love. He's living proof that your worst chapter doesn't have to be your final one. That addiction doesn't mean you're broken forever. That you can disappoint people deeply and still be worth loving. He didn't escape his past. He used it, turned it into armor. Not the metal kind, the kind forged in honesty. When Tony Stark snapped his fingers and saved the world, audiences cried because they knew, they felt, that was real. That wasn't just a character. That was a man who had clawed his way back from the edge of ruin and stood tall. Robert Downey Jr. was never acting. He was surviving. And then he started thriving. So, if you're standing in the wreckage of your life, if you think it's too late, if you think no one will give you another shot, remember Robert Downey Jr. And remember this: comebacks don't start with applause. They start with silence, with ownership, with one tiny, sober, painful, beautiful decision to try again.